In the shadowed heart of ancient Babylon, beyond the sun-baked bricks and bustling markets, there lies a world most would never dare enter. The Tavern, a den of grit and whispers, where desperation and ambition meet. Stepping through the dusty threshold, the air is thick with the scent of stale grain and tense anticipation. Here the ale is not golden and clear, but dark, sour and masking secrets. No coins clink, debts are settled with barley, or worse. Around flickering oil lamps, men gamble with fate and reputations. Beneath the smoke, a dangerous dance unfolds, a nightly struggle for survival amidst ancient laws and lurking chaos. Venture with me now as we step back into the amber glow of ancient Babylon, a city alive under the cloak of night. The sun has vanished beyond the horizon, painting the sky with the last shades of dusk, leaving the narrow lanes shadowed and mysterious. The day's labour scents the air with dust and sweat, guiding us toward the storied steps of a Babylonian tavern. With each step, we inch closer to a world that juxtaposes comfort with necessity. Pushing past a simple curtain of reeds, we cross into a setting of intrigue and unpredictable encounters. This fragile barrier acts as a gateway that divides the vibrant chaos of the bustling market from the tavern's unsettling quietude. Here in this shadowed enclave, Babylon's diverse populace converges, peasants seeking relief, soldiers hiding battle scars, rogues blending into obscurity. Inside, the atmosphere grips our senses. The tavern pulses with an undercurrent of murmured dealings and the hiss of flickering lamps. Skeptical eyes observe newcomers, each patron a participant in this drama of secrets. The scent is palpable. Stale grain mingles with sweat, crafting a visceral entry into this ancient night economy. Unlike modern establishments, the Babylonian alehouse was a utilitarian haven. Rugged, not revolutionised for leisure, but survival. Tattered mats lay scattered, their wear and tear echoing the transient lives that have found warmth here. The dim glow barely touches the room's edges, where shadows conceal whispers of trepidation and ambition. We stand amidst a tapestry woven from sounds and sights that transcend centuries. The clamour and camaraderie, mingling with the metallic clink of clay cups, create a symphony punctuated by exuberant laughter or drunken rage. Oil lamps cast flickering shadows against ancient walls, guardians of untold secrets and silent observers of time's passage. Though worn, these taverns thrum with an indomitable vigour. Amongst the decay lies a pulse of life, a convergence of survival and celebration. The air, laden with the tang of ale and ember, forms an unvoiced song, narrating the enduring spirit of its patrons who seek solace in this communal refuge. Here, society in its rawest form is palpable. Seats are claimed by a cross-section of Babylon, each patron a living testament to the fabric of humanity that thrived in this vast Mesopotamian world. From muddied farmers to merchants seeking patrons for their artistry, the tavern unites disparate lives under its ancient roof. The gamblers, craftsmen, and wanderers reflect a society bursting with life, each with a story etched in the clay of their mugs. Drinking was not merely an act, but a ritual imbued with social significance. The lifting of a mug, filled with a sturdy yet murky brew of dates and grains, mirrored individual stations and sentiments. Each shared drink is a bond, each clink a chord in the symphony of human narratives. Toasts ignite fleeting alliances, revealing camaraderie or masked threats, with each sip defining the balance between trust and trepidation. Yet beneath this surface of conviviality, undercurrents of tension flow. The tavern, while offering unity, is a crucible of clandestine plots and whispered bargains. Each corner hides an unvoiced negotiation, every glance calculating potential profits or perils. Here, suspicion is as vital a currency as the tangible trades in barley or goat fat. The unpredictable nature of tavern life underscores its allure. Not every glance is benign. Some eyes appraise, seeking opportunity amidst disorder. The tavern can transform swiftly from a refuge to a theatre of chaos, where concealed motives unravel, and alliances are tested by the strength of swords more than words. As night deepens, the tavern stands resolute. Its threshold outlines a world both intimate and expansive in its history. The walls, steeped in the dust and sweat of countless stories, echo the night's adventures long after patrons depart. Each sensation and whisper forms a layer in our shared human tapestry, alive with the vibrancy of ancient lives. As we exit, the curtain falls back into place, sealing the tavern's mysteries once more. But we leave carrying a piece of this world, each moment entwined in our memory. Outside, the city waits under a starry sky. Yet the tavern's echo remains, a fleeting chapter in the ongoing saga that began beyond the dusty threshold, etched in the shadows of ancient Babylon. In the bustling marketplaces and shadow taverns of ancient Babylon, beer wasn't just a beverage, it was the lifeblood of society, weaving itself into the tapestry of daily life and culture. Originating from ancient Sumerians, Babylonian brewers inherited and refined the age-old craft, creating a brew that was both sustenance and social glue. The fertile lands of the Tigris and Euphrates supplied ample barley, the grain that would fuel both economy and community. Beer, from its inception, was intertwined with religion, offered in rites to deities, a symbol of prosperity and divine blessing. For the Babylonians, brewing was a sacred act, a dialogue with the gods themselves. Women traditionally undertook the brewing process, respected not only as skilled artisans, but as guardians of an essential survival skill. Their approach was simultaneously artistry and necessity, relying on fermentation methods passed down through generations. Without modern sanitation, wild yeast and airborne particles catalyzed fermentation, infusing the beer with flavours as unpredictable as they were robust. Each batch carried the scent and essence of its surroundings, a unique imprint of the time and place it was crafted. Babylonians thrived on each thick, cloudy sip, each draught a microcosm of survival, camaraderie, and shared experience. The brewing process was both a ritual of patience and an exercise in unpredictability. Barley, or occasionally emmer wheat, was soaked, mashed, and then allowed to ferment naturally, in an environment where control was more an aspiration than a guarantee. The result was a concoction far removed from today's lagers, an unrefined, slurry-like beverage that demanded skill to consume. Clay straws were used to navigate the many solids, an innovative solution to long-forgotten inconveniences which also added a tactile dimension to drinking. This approach meant consuming beer was as much about texture as taste, a gritty reminder of its agrarian roots. Within the confines of smoky taverns, beer became a catalyst for social dynamics, breaking down barriers and loosening tongues. Unlike today's solitary drinks, each mug represented a collective experience, an opportunity to bond or brawl over shared or clashing stories. This elixir, rich in calories, fed both body and spirit, offering a momentary escape from Babylon's demanding reality. Taverns, often run by formidable women known as sabatu, were microcosms of society, where hierarchies were challenged and alliances forged. Within these close quarters, beer was the medium through which business was conducted, knowledge traded and trust cautiously given or withheld. Brewing, however, was fraught with challenges. The line between successful fermentation and spoilage was thin, a reminder of nature's fickle power. The sweltering Babylonian climate often turned vat sour, creating a product that could be as much a bane as a boon. A good brewer learned to embrace the unpredictability, reading cues in scent and taste, keenly aware that a spoiled batch would not only be communal disappointment, but a potential financial ruin. So they monitored their brews with the vigilance of sentinels, for in these mugs lay not just livelihood, but the essence of their patrons' temporary reprieve from the world outside. Amidst Babylonian myths, beer took on a role far beyond its physical form. It was celebrated as a symbol of fertility and prosperity, its consumption an act of both revelry and reverence. It tied drinkers to the cycles of agriculture, to the rhythms of sowing and harvest that mirrored human existence. In festivals, the bubbling froth was testament to God's favour, a toast lifted to life and bounty and unity. Beer in this view was far more than mere nourishment. It was a reminder of humanity's shared journey, a common thread in an expansive tapestry of tales and tradition. Yet with every blessing, there lingered the shadow of superstition. Brewers and patrons lived in fear of spoilage that might unleash unseen chaos. Tales of madness induced by doomed brews whispered through taverns. A frightful edge to the intoxication many sought. Spoilage became an explanation for the unexplained, a scapegoat for behaviours best rationalised under the influence of spirits, not entirely of this world. These superstitions coloured every sip with an undercurrent of caution amidst revelry, a reminder that ancient fears were as potent as the ales consumed. Through myths and fables, beer entrenched itself in Babylonian consciousness, becoming a vehicle for storytelling, where mortal and divine entwined. Its frothy surface echoed grand narratives, its taste a remembrance brewed in the heart of civilization. Every sip retained hints of lore, a bridge between past and present that lent ancient tales their enduring allure. As each tale unfolded, beer stood as both witness and participant, connecting the ancients' hopes and fears to the present, with every shared cup in whispers, beneath Babylon's wide, watching skies. In the bustling heart of ancient Babylon, the concept of money was as elusive as a drop of rain in the arid desert. Silver, the precious metal that many would associate with currency, was rare and often inaccessible to the average Babylonian. Instead, the people relied on the most fundamental of staples, barley. This humble grain, the backbone of Babylonian society, was the lifeblood of both families and merchants. Inside the dimly lit taverns, where the air was thick with the aroma of stale beer and the low murmur of bartering voices, barley was not merely a food source, but an essential currency. Patrons would empty the contents of their woven sacks onto the wooden tables, their fingers stained from the fields, counting out the grains that would secure their evening's indulgence. The trade of barley was deceptively simple, yet rife with challenges. The quality of each batch was subject to scrutiny, igniting disputes between discerning tavern keepers and patrons quick to claim their grain was worthy of the exchange. Some patrons, ever cunning, attempted to pass off subpar grain as top quality, presenting sun-dried kernels tightly wrapped to deceive the unwary. But the vigilant tavern keeper knew better. With a keen eye and years of experience etched into their weary faces, they discerned the true value of the grain. This barter, devoid of coin's impersonal nature, teetered on the edge of satisfaction and swindling. Yet barley wasn't the only currency that breathed life into the bustling taverns. Goat fat, glistening with its own unique value, was another staple of transaction. Used in cooking and to fuel the lamps that cut through Babylon's shadows, this unlikely form of currency was a saviour for those unwilling to part with their grains. Taverns adapted readily to such exchanges, for both grain and fat were measures of social standing, objects of trade that bore silent witness to the agricultural roots of Babylonian life. However, the life of trade was a precarious dance. Patrons who misjudged their means, or found themselves stricken by fate's cruel hand, faced dire consequences. In the enigmatic taverns, debts could result in the surrender of one's liberty. Overindulgence could easily lead to enslaved labour, men and women falling victim to the harsh realities of debt. Families fractured under the weight of unpaid tabs, members torn apart to serve as payment for an evening's indulgence. This grim reality was accepted as a cold fact of Babylonian survival, where social and economic systems were merciless. Within this tightly woven fabric of barter, status played its own cunning game. In the taverns of Babylon, distinctions between the classes were tangible, like the difference between silk and burlap. The affluent patrons, draped in symbols of their wealth, presented stones and slaves in elegant gestures, apart from the earthy barter of the peasantry. For the wealthy, payment was a spectacle, a gilded ritual that commanded respect and served as a reminder of their elevated status. Across the room, the poor bartered with grains, their transactions more humble, their efforts underscored by labour promises. The tavern was more than a mere hub of indulgence. It was an intricate reflection of Babylon's wider world, a microcosm that revealed the interplay of economic forces and social structures. Transactions, though seemingly mundane, held rippling consequences, impacting craftsmen, suppliers, and the families intertwined with the fortunes of the tavern. The tavern keeper played a pivotal role in this economy, balancing their books as both merchant and arbitrator, subject to Hammurabi's laws. Intrigue flickered within those earthen walls, where secret exchanges were whispered in the shadows. Deeds too dark for daylight found sanctuary in the murky atmosphere, creating a clandestine market of words and secrets. It was a realm where matters of state and personal affairs were transacted under the cover of darkness, swayed by whispered promises and hushed tones. These hidden dealings held the power to alter lives and yet remained invisible to the unobservant eye. As dawn approached and sunlight breached Babylon's tangled streets, patrons confronted the aftermath of their night's choices. Some departed with shoulders burdened by regret, their spirits marked by bargains struck in the haze of intoxication. Others, eking out solace in shared misery, found strength anew, rejuvenated by the camaraderie of their peers. The tavern, with its uneven floors and shadowy corners, was a setting of extremes, both a refuge and a crucible for those seeking escape from Babylon's relentless march of time. Here ancient currency flowed, both tangible and ephemeral, binding people in an eternal dance of trade and consequence. In ancient Babylon, entering a tavern was like stepping into a parallel universe where women often reigned. The tavern keepers, known as Sabtu, defied the male-dominated order of public life, earning respect and a unique form of autonomy. They were more than mere providers of beer. These women commanded a nuanced role in the community. Beyond serving cloudy brews from thick clay cups, they managed a world teeming with intrigue and tension. Their establishments demanded more than a head for business. They required the savvy to mediate in a theatre where soldiers, merchants, aristocrats and commoners mingled. Their ability to navigate this social terrain made them both powerful and indispensable, as well as perceived brokers of information and influence. In a world where intelligence was the key to survival, the Imefei Sabtu occupied a crucial role as purveyors of gossip and secrets. They straddled the lines between various factions, their taverns serving as crossroads for whispers that could make or break fortunes. Many believed a savvy Sabtu could alter the course of deals or even political intrigues with the mere tilt of a head, acknowledging or disregarding a murmur. They were informants, mediators, and at times spies, roles that granted them both reverence and fear. Ancient law, particularly under the Code of Hammurabi, showcased the regard and wariness these women inspired. Explicit warnings against consorting with Sabtu were common, viewing their domains as hotbeds of potential crime and deceit. The accusations were as varied as they were grave, harbouring fugitives, abetting criminals, and diluting beer for profit. Their establishments, teeming with a roiling mix of people and passions, offered shelter to subversive elements like a shadowy safe haven. Yet despite punitive measures aimed at curbing their influence, the Bamiteka thrived. Some believe the sense of danger heightened their allure, while even monarchs struggled to fully subdue these enigmatic figures. The power of a Zabtu lay in her command over information, blurred lines between espionage and safeguard. In an era devoid of centralized news, taverns became unofficial networks where news from distant lands, military campaigns, and local politics first found voice. One needed only an ear at a Sabtu's counter to access a trove of insights that could be wielded for gain or devastation. This made them both ally and threat, solicitors of discretion who could discreetly relay messages or fuel narratives. The legendary status of some Sabtu extended beyond their practical roles into Babylonian mythos. Their stories, a captivating mix of reality and myth, warned and enticed in equal measure. In songs and tales they possessed charms and cunning that rendered them both irresistible and perilous. Such stories often served as morality lessons, cautioning against underestimating Sabtu's sway while illustrating their charm and wit. In a society where women face rigid roles, Sabtufi stood out as exceptions. They broke through established norms with tenacity, assuming responsibilities traditionally held by men. Their taverns inverted typical gender dynamics, granting them a rare combination of social and economic influence. Young women heard tales of Santimonain Sabtu, thriving amidst Babylon's sprawling social fabric, and saw the possibility of achieving agency within their worlds. The relationship between kings and Yin Sabtu was fraught yet essential. Taverns, volatile yet vital community hubs, represented both a threat and a boon. Rulers acknowledged the necessity of these women and sometimes relied on them for diplomacy. Tavern keepers could broker peace while spying on unrest, positioning themselves as strategic allies or pawns in royal politics. Intrigue shrouded the Sabtu, often labelled as spies or protectors. Their dual trait identity made them indispensable yet vilified. As both custodians and dispensers of secrets, they navigated a fine line between community, guardianship, and the pressures from rulers who covet their insider status. Their dual roles influenced those around them, while they cultivated an aura of mystique. Economically, taverns were pivotal under the Fiaba Sabtus and Doism, watchful eyes, beer-fueled social exchanges, and economic trade, with taverns acting as bustling centres of commerce outside official markets. Here, deals happened over simple libations such as barley in exchange for goods, a testimony to their economic prowess. Historically, the Sabatu persisted as potent cultural figures, symbols of autonomy and fortitude passed from Babylonian times to the present. Though their stories often slip between fact and fable, their lasting legacy remains resilient. They survive as exemplars of power operating under the surface, offering us insight into the potential for influence among women tasked with redefining their roles. These tavern keepers, with their deft hands and discerning eyes, are remembered as more than tavern keepers, but as architects of nighttime history who redefined their boundaries in Babylon. They navigated shadows with grace and left an indelible mark on a landscape shaped by their vision and resolve. As the sun dipped below the horizon in ancient Babylon, the tavern came alive, its dimly lit corners drawing gamblers like moths to a flame laced with peril and promise. The flickering oil lamps cast shadows that blended with the patrons' hopes and fears, creating a theatre of suspense and anticipation. Men and women gathered around crude wooden boards, their eyes reflecting the twin possibilities of fortune and ruin. Unlike today's regimented casinos, these gatherings embraced chaos and the unknown, where wagers transcended mere currency and became a dance with destiny under the enigmatic gaze of gods and peers. The Babylonian tavern, more than just a venue for gaming, was a place where the divine and human worlds brushed against each other. Gambling was considered not just a test of luck, but a spiritual act, asking divine forces for blessing or judgment. The knuckle bones and carved ivory dice were believed to hold mystical power, each roll a mystical question aimed at the heavens. Would Marduk, the supreme deity, offer his favour today, or was this a test by Enki, the god of wisdom and water? This sacred gamble between the mortal and the mystical drew the faithful back again and again, driven by the belief that destiny could be nudged by human hands. Games varied from the simple to the arcane, each holding the weight of potential prosperity or disaster. Dice, marked with primitive symbols, became tools through which players interpreted their future, blending mathematical chance with theological curiosity. Every symbol etched onto the game boards held a deeper meaning, like paths on a map that players navigated, seeking fortune with every throw. Although these games provided entertainment and a measure of escape, they also challenged the prevailing norms of hard work and communal responsibility, stirring controversy among those who deemed gambling a reckless fantasy for the desperate. By its very nature, luck in Babylon was as sharp as a sword, promising victory and downfall with equal indifference. The tale of a commoner climbing social ladders with a fortunate roll was as frequent as that of an aristocrat losing it all. The tavern morphed into a crucible where personal destinies were forged or shattered, stories of triumph tempered by those of defeat. Shadows concealed thieves waiting to ambush the unwary, and intoxicated winners could easily stumble into misfortune outside, reflecting the volatile nature of Babylonian spirituality, dominated by unpredictable divine whims. Cheating in this world lured like a snake's tongue, its consequences potentially severe and justice swift. The brave or the foolish often tried to sway destiny through cunning, but Babylon's strict legal codes, epitomised by Hammurabi's icily just inscriptions, reserved stern measures for deceit. Cheating was considered a grave affront to societal values where honour was revered, yet the spectre of deceit infused the atmosphere with a tense complexity. An added layer to the game where players watched for signs of dishonesty. Whispers circulated, and allies shifted. Within the loud tavern, the rattle of dice intertwined with the murmur of shifting alliances, trust as fragile as the air thick with smoke. Gambling was also an economic force in Babylon, where currency was scarce, and wagers often settled in goods like grain or livestock, creating an unofficial economy where material wealth hinged on the turn of a roll. This aspect underlined the fluid nature of fortune, its ebb and flow capable of transforming a peasant into a self-made patron, or vice versa. At its heart, the tavern was a reflection of Babylonian society, where games were not simply pastimes but profound engagements with destiny itself, affecting social hierarchies as much as personal fortunes. The low glow of oil lamps created an atmosphere ripe for illusion and introspection. Shadows flickered against the walls, dancing with the patron's hopes and despair as subtly as the lamp's flames. The dimness invited not just deception, but a mystical reimagining of reality, a confluence of the earthly and divine. Within these half-seen realms, players practiced a stoic art of concealment, masking intentions behind narrowed gazes and subtle gestures. A performance for those sharp enough to read beyond mere games to symbols and omens. In this microcosm, Babylon's social structures played out dramatically every night, as labourers mixed with the nobility under the veil of anonymity that the tavern offered. Here, social disparities momentarily dissolved in the face of shared uncertainty. Wealthy patrons might share cautionary tales beside commoners, finding fleeting camaraderie under the scrutiny of divine patrons. But the semblance of equality was delicate. Hierarchical tensions persisted and influenced perceptions of failure and success. Faith and fortune collided here, with the tavern serving as an unorthodox temple where worship intertwined with risk. An outcome could feel revered as a divine blessing or curse, entwined as much with belief as skill. Participants sought assurance through charms and rituals, hoping to secure favour from the divine intervention. The sacred subtly met the profane, with a subtextual invocation playing beneath each game and each throw becoming an act of ancient devotion. Every roll of the dice encapsulated the thrill of unpredictability, a moment when dreams and desperation mingled in a tenuous equilibrium. This ritual of aligning body with spirit mirrored the cycles of creation in Babylonian mythos, reflecting the cosmic storms where human endeavours intertwined with divine destiny. For the gamblers, each cast was a connection to something larger, a transient yet eternal dance of chance and choice that resounded through history's tapestry, leaving impressions more enduring than the transient shadows that cloaked their feet. Stepping into a Babylonian tavern is like entering another realm, a sensory explosion that engulfs you in a thick cloud of incense and smoke. These tendrils of aroma and haze are not merely there for ambience, they serve to cleanse as much as to conceal the odours of an establishment rarely acquainted with cleanliness. The tavern air is heavy with frankincense and myrrh, obscuring the boundaries of the room in a mystic fog. Each breath is to inhale not just air, but the essence of centuries, filled with beliefs as ancient as the empire itself. The dimly lit space, illuminated by flickering oil lamps, creates shadows that appear to dance between patrons, evoking the restless spirits many believe to linger here. It's in this enigmatic environment that the patrons of the tavern seek contact with the ethereal. Among them, huddled in a corner, are the fortune tellers. Their craft is not dominant, it's a subtle art of whispers and glances, blessed or cursed with the insights gained from casting grains of sand or the sheen on a bowl of oil. These seers serve as intermediaries between the corporeal and the divine, infusing each prophecy with a magnetic weight that compels both belief and skepticism. Their practiced voices cut through the din like a string plucked on a harp, each note another strand in the intricate web of destiny. The tavern, suffused with incense and enigma, holds many purposes, among them a marketplace for the mystical. Charm vendors ply their trade in amulets crafted from bone, clay and stone, each promising to ward off malign spirits or bring good fortune. These small totems move quickly from hand to hand, exchanged without words, their stories as potent and varied as the patrons themselves. Buyers are not merely acquiring trinkets, but making transactions with destiny, fashioning futures touched by the gods. The air itself seems to vibrate with whispered incantations, spoken behind cupped hands. Words in this ancient realm have power, flowing like rivers through a cultural landscape that reveres language. They serve as both petition and weapon, spoken with reverence that turns whispered wishes into possible realities. Patrons invoke deities or seek the favour of celestial forces, their murmurs mingling with the smoke, rising upwards in celestial conversation. Each incantation could either weave a cloak of protection or unsettle the tapestry of fate, transforming the tavern into a hub of earthly and heavenly negotiations. Nevertheless, every favour or fortune sold in this sorcerous bazaar comes at a price not measured simply in silver or grain. The real cost is woven into each transaction, a stockpile of cosmic debts that might echo across lifetimes. As much as patrons yearn for control, belief coexists with doubt, each potentially exacting a toll of its own. The Babylonians understood well the delicate balance between hope and superstition, gambling often with their own emotional and spiritual balances. Despite, or perhaps because of, the mysticism, the tavern's patrons remain fully engaged, caught in the dance of spirits and deities. Amidst the incense and chaos, they share stories of visits from gods or spectres glimpsed in their dreams, tying their narratives to communal myth. The tavern becomes a stage for this spectral drama, where individual experiences weave into a larger tapestry of Babylonian life. It is a communal dance with reverberations felt long after dawn disperses the shadows. In the spiritual entropy of the tavern lays a profound commentary on belief and sanctity. Every draught of smoky air is considered sacred, each sip of warm beer a ritual, intertwining the mundane with the divine. Here, where patrons sniff the gods in the very air and trace divinity in the viscous bubbles of their drink, the boundaries blur between what is holy and what is not. The divine seems tantalizingly close, just beyond the reach of sight, yet present enough to touch. The afternoon and evening pass in this liminal space until even the skeptics moodily accept the mysterious as a part of the tavern's allure. With satisfaction gleaned from debates and doubts, they reluctantly fuel the ever-turning cycle of belief by challenging its limits. Balancing sarcasm with sagacity, skepticism becomes part of the tavern's fabric, a necessary tension that contrasts with the unending stream of mystical convictions. In these darkened corners, Babylon's rich narrative pulses with every smoky breath drawn, shaping and haunting those who brave its depths. Emerging back into the daylight, patrons might feel the pull of those spiritual energies unwind, their connections only slightly less tethered. The tavern lingers in their minds as an altar to an ancient dance, one where smoke entwines with stories, inviting them to remember and return. For beyond the tempest of smells and stories, Babylonian life awaits beyond the incense-misted curtain. In the dim corners of a Babylonian tavern, the flickering glow of oil lamps casts dancing shadows, amplifying the tension that hangs thick in the air. As night envelops the city, these tight quarters transform into a tinderbox of raw emotion. The crowd, a patchwork of society's tears, buzzes with a cocktail of chatter and suppressed animosity. Here, among clay cups of potent ale and the potent smell of sweat, there's no room for accidental touches or perceived slights. Every nod and glance teeters on a razor's edge, able to ignite grudges older than the city itself. Voices rise and fall like the feverish tide, blending with the backdrop of clattering dice and the sharp cries of a victorious gambler, all underscored by the mournful tunes of musicians brave enough to serenade such a crowd. This volatile atmosphere needs only the slightest breeze to whip into a storm. A mere brushed shoulder or a spilled drink can unravel civility, sending words flying like barbed arrows. Here, combat unravels in a heartbeat, a crude ballet without choreography. There's no honour guard or referee, just a surge of bodies and beer, where a clay cup morphs into a weapon, and corners offer the quickest route to advantage or escape. Each brawl is not just an eruption of violence, but a manifestation of pride, honour, and the delicate social dance ingrained in Babylon's bones. Despite the chaos that unfolds, an ancient order hurls its silent commands. The powerful code of Hammurabi, carved in stone and wisdom, lurks in the minds of participants and observers alike. Its laws are severe, a reflection of Babylon's precarious balance between civilization and chaos. Infractions in a tavern are not trivial. They are solemn trials of character and consequence. A careless barmaid may face her own fate if a brawl goes unchecked, a casualty of enforced community responsibility. Each rash act, from spilling ale to drawing a blade, is weighed against the scales of justice, poised to curb humanity's primal violence with the force of immutable law. Standing between complete anarchy and the reluctant peace is the Sabatu, omnipresent yet elusive guardians of order. These women oversee the turbulent scene, with eyes sharper than the daggers concealed beneath their tunics. They are the orchestrators of calm within the chaos, skilled in the art of preempting disaster, with nothing more than a keen observation or incisive whisper. Men may tower over them in stature, but here, influence is measured otherwise. The Sabatu's deft handling of tension extends throughout the city. Her reputation as both diplomacy and deterrent, ensuring her power remains unchallenged, even by the high and mighty. The scraps of life used in the conflicts here are tools of desperation and necessity, rather than weapons of choice. Pottery shards cut flesh as easily as any crafted blade, their angles honed by use and circumstance. These tools bear witness to every conflict, carrying tales of nights when desperation forged violence. Each mug, each stool, each improvised weapon speaks a silent history, handed down by forebearers, in lessons of survival and resilience. The aftermath of such a brawl leaves visible marks, scars that serve as visceral reminders of a society where a night of madness could write its permanence in flesh. Within this shadow-filled realm, the stakes of reputation and class ripple through every altercation. The hierarchy of Babylon doesn't end at the tavern door. It courses through every exchange, every slight and jest. For the common man, a brawl could elevate or erase prospects of respect, while for a noble, even the cobblestones seem to echo his folly louder than stormy skies. Yet these dichotomies occasionally blur, the ale's intoxication weaving an unexpected tapestry of equality through bruised skin and shared laughter the next morning. Tavern brawls have repercussions far beyond rows of toppled stools and cracked clay cups. They echo through societal shifts, etched into collective memory. These outbursts symbolise deep currents of unrest and hopelessness, reflecting grievances that go beyond personal vendettas to hint at structural inequities. Each brawl, a microcosm of rebellion, subtly tweaks the justice system's response, feeding into records and precedents that shape Babylon's historical fabric. And as the dust settles, those involved face ripples extending through their lives. Wounds garnered from such escapades linger, serving as reminders both of the folly of pride and the society's equilibrium hinged on skilled negotiation and the power of collective memory. Reputations are either cemented or shattered, spreading like whispers beyond tavern walls, influencing future dealings with rulers and rivals alike. Participation in such skirmishes sketches indelibly on character, a history unfurled far beyond the night's fleeting fury. These violent clashes offer a lens into Babylon's vibrant yet volatile heart, drawing modern eyes to witness timeless trials of honour and humanity. Through blood and shadow, the tavern brawl is a testament to survival's primal prompts, a reminder that even as civilization's patina glosses over ancient stones, the human condition remains tenderly, fiercely unchanged. Under the watchful gaze of Babylon's ancient moons, the city's night watchmen prowled the winding streets, their footsteps a hushed whisper against the stone. Clad in shadowy garments, these silent sentinels wielded authority like a blade, ever alert to the mutterings and laughter spilling from tavern doorways. The tavern was no mere drinking house. It was a crucible of chaos, a confluence of clandestine meetings and revelry, which the watchmen monitored with a keen, quiet vigilance. They knew well that unchecked merriment could foment unrest, transform whispers into the roar of rebellion. Their eyes, as steadfast as a lion's gaze, caught every clink of a clay cup and every murmur drifting through the tavern's smoke-filled air. Their mission transcended the prevention of brawls. They sought to deter the deeper discontent simmering beneath Babylon's facade of iron order. Within this den of drink, a single oath flung in anger or a secret traded between cups could threaten to unravel the very fabric of society. Patrons walked a tightrope between pleasure and peril, knowing that the guardians of Babylon's peace were listening, ready to pounce on any sign of discord. When the raucous din within a tavern rose to a deafening crescendo, promising trouble, the watchman struck with the swiftness of a sandstorm. Raids were sudden, transforming revelry into rivulets of dread. The pounding of an iron-tipped staff against a wooden door announced their arrival, and inside, hearts would still in anticipation. Those least inclined to civility found themselves face down on the dusty floors, hiding from judgment's glare. For tavern keepers, these invasions tested the tightrope they walked, balancing rowdy freedom with the ever-looming scourge of anarchy. Yet the purpose of a raid extended beyond quelling disorder. Taverns, more than haunts of merriment, were stages for intrigue, where soldiers mingled with traders, and dissent found fertile ground. Here, in the clatter of dice and coins, the watchmen sought the seeds of sedition. In these operations, they hoped to harvest rumours, unravelling bucolic banter to find the strands of conspiracy threatening the city's equilibrium. Every raid served as a stark reminder, Among jest and laughter lay the spectre of Babylon's fragility, its order upheld by vigilant eyes in the shadowed corners. As dawn broke over the city, swift retribution awaited those guilty of stirring unrest. The Tavern, once a haven, became a witness to justice meted out beneath the watchful eyes of the community and the gods themselves. Punishment was a public affair, a performance staged on the temple steps, designed to deter future misdeeds. Those dragged from their midnight revels stood as stark reminders of the fine line separating indulgence from defiance. The swift, unyielding hand of justice ensured that the tavern scenes did not unravel Babylon's social contract. Taverns in Babylon were crucibles of society's vulnerabilities, spaces where the fabric of order stretched thin. By publicly punishing offenders, the city reaffirmed its adherence to law and order, delivering a resonant warning to tavern owners and patrons alike. Each spectacle served as a communal oath to maintain stability within the confines of revelry. Faces tinged with shame, the condemned resembled offerings to any angry gods of law and decorum, their trials a testament to Babylon's fervent pursuit of balance, a ceaseless dance atop a taut wire of societal norms. Beyond mere dens of vice, taverns served as backdrops for whispered conspiracies, where dissatisfied murmurs could grow into full-fledged insurrections. Secrets and treachery mingled freely amidst drink and dance, and a careless word might doom or deliver those gathered within. The drink allowed masks to slip, revealing alliances or ambitions, shaping destinies in dim-lit corners, far removed from palace politics but not its influence. Here in the haze of intoxication, whispered plots brewed beneath the surface, with the tavern as a silent witness to Babylon's precarious threshold of order. The watchmen's subtleties mirrored this sophistication, for they were aware that beyond the boisterous veneer, clandestine alliances could form, threatening the kingdom's status quo. Within the labyrinth of camaraderie, merchants and nobles bound by need navigated a world of muted negotiations and bartered futures. The tavern keeper, skilled in parsing the languages of desire and fear, facilitated these exchanges, aware of the repercussions of subversion, danced across the line between wealth shared and secrets sold. Here lay the heart of Babylon's economic underbelly, exposed under the guise of innocent revelry. As the night surrendered to daylight, the last echoes of revelry retreated, leaving tavern patrons to ponder the night's reckless dance on the edge. Watchful eyes noted those who skirted too close to Babylon's strictures, a city caught between chaos and civilization. With each new dawn, the tavern doors closed on another night's tales, preparing for the next sequence of shadows and smoke, where the pulse of humanity beat ceaselessly. In these sacred halls of indulgence, the promise of living dangerously beckoned, ever renewed with the rising sun. In the dim glow of Babylonian dawn, waking is a slow, painful affair. The tavern's rough straw mat scratches your skin, and the remnants of last night's revelry echo through your aching head. Your throat burns for want of water, a scarcity compared to the sour beer that flows more freely here. Sticky sweat clings to you, mingled with the lingering smoke and the night's grime. As light filters through the reed curtain's narrow slit, you become aware of the distant clatter of clay vessels and furtive whispers, all compounded by the pounding headache that pulses with your heartbeat. The grim reality of last night hangs in your foggy mind, memories shadowed by laughter, anger, perhaps a whispering of fear. As clarity returns, dread settles in, Either you're zipped among other sleeping forms or confined in unfamiliar holding pits where Babylon resolves the chaotic. By night, a tavern is a spirited hub, but come morning it becomes a sombre temple to the god Marduk, who reputedly smiles upon indulgence. Bruises tell tales of the night's excess, and you find yourself rifling through your scant belongings, searching in vain for items gone missing. Barley pouches, jewellery, prayer beads, all vanished in the haze. When dawn's light spills into the tavern, the chaos appears surreal. Last night's boisterous energy replaced by eerie silence. Ash marks fights long ended, and sticky remnants of indulgences carpet the floor. Dice lie forgotten. Absent sandals hint at stories untold. As others lie snoring close by, strangers and friends share secrets of the night as the breath of dawn exhales. For those running the tavern, the shrewd custodians of nocturnal secrets, the morning brings another kind of reckoning. They sift through the chaos, piecing together what remains to prepare the stage for another night's stories. Tavern keepers, often women of keen wisdom, glide through scattered debris, noting damages and missing jugs in the ongoing saga of survival. These keepers hide the sins of the night, managing the tryst, the deceit, where law flirts with human instinct's unpredictability. Awakening to Empty Hands tells a common Babylonian tale, the possessions lost and dignity surrendered within the tavern's trading post of promises, possessions, and fleeting status. Here sandals might buy a beer, its warmth traded for bare footing on morning's dust. Trust is played and misplaced like a gambler throwing dice being swindled away by charmed whispers exchanged in shadow. In Babylon's social layers, theft among the intoxicated is a pragmatic survival strategy, an edge drawn readily in this world's undercurrents. Yet, should discretion fail, Hammurabi's code brings harsh justice to the ill-favoured. Each lost item whispers its tale of barter or theft, swirled within the tavern's never-ending serpentine tale of chance and indulgence. Prices are paid elsewhere too in the holding pits, a grim reality of tavern escapades in Babylon. Infringing codes lands many in these exposed enclosures, where the rule's cold reach doesn't distinguish between hardened criminals or simple spirited patrons. Here amongst the unwilling occupants, bonds are forged from shared captivity, while one scrabbles for warmth against Earth's biting coldness, alongside consideration of real or imagined crimes. Such temporary confinements weigh heavily on one's standing in Babylon, a society revolving on reputation. Emerging from the pits does not cleanse one of societal judgment. Redemption is another long gamble, reputation marred by societal whisper. Yet the tavern's door remains, welcoming stories unfinished by daylight in the realm of twilight's embrace. By Babylon's morning light, the human landscape tells stories through bruises marking skin like fables shaped in temple quarrels. Scars bear witness to nocturnal skirmishes, less grand, but impacting enough to endure the day. Disputes, accidental or intentional, linger as visible markers of confrontation, as tangible as the fables shadowed by Ishtar's arching reign. Babylon's populace carries its own lexicon of war's theatre and persistence. Each brews a tale of folly and heroism amongst tavern knights. Like roosters in battle, patrons wear their scruffy plumage as brave defiance, forging connections deeper than these ephemera that await evening resurrection. Morning rituals beckon redemption in Babylon, each proceeding with a slow procession towards renewal. Public baths come alive as patrons seek to purge body and spirit from the night's unflinching hold. The bathhouses encourage sacred ceremonial cleansing, where cleanliness bridges trials earthly and celestial. A balm against night's weight. Oil anoints avarice wounds, threading unity through shared purging. Society reborn with the sun. In morning's light, whispered folklore breathes through Babylon. The bard's skill, crafting epic retellings. Tales traverse epochs and ziggurat-shaded squares, weaving stories intimate and fantastical in beating breath. They are whispered warnings or lyrical sagas, bards tracing rhythms, preserving lessons and delight to retell through time, keeping alive whispered tales from the tavern's depths. Closing unnoticed, each eve in Babylon morphs into introspection over transient triumphs. Societal rhythm continues perpetual, merciless, and magnanimous past any transcription. Memories oscillating between victory and crisis form grips in individual and societal realms where Babylon writes and rewrites. The heart races within each dawn, only to rediscover stories among clay and humanity, narrating itself eternally in constant refrain. In ancient Babylon, taverns thrummed with life, hosting a medley of patrons whose reckless abandon often skirted the edges of legality. These establishments were not merely places to unwind, but battlegrounds where Babylon's complex social order clashed against human vice and temptation. The Code of Hammurabi, an archetypal pillar of ancient law, delineated taverns as epicenters of moral and legal transgressions. Intricately carved on stone slabs, these laws served as both edicts and warnings, cautioning citizens about the perils that lurked within this seemingly innocuous space. Every seemingly mundane rule, from ale pricing to women tavern keepers' rights, was imbued with subtle undercurrents of order, mirrored against chaos's perpetual threat. Within these dimly lit confines, the strains between class and gender simmered restlessly. Taverns played host to a swirling eddy of clandestine deals and drunken disorder. Realms where the rule of law was paramount yet perpetually tested. The legislature grasped for control, striving to tame these dens of iniquity not only through economic regulation, but also by quelling the greed, desperation, and secrets that festered in the shadows. Here, city guards patrolled vigilantly, ever wary of the murmured plots that might germinate into outright rebellion. In this dark bastion of humanity, laws were not just rules, but a tether-binding chaos. The very fabric of society stretched taut across bacchanalian indulgence. At the heart of this drama were the Sabatu, the formidable women who ruled these alehouses with sharp acumen and tougher resolve. The code granted them a peculiar authority, albeit one shackled by stringent regulations, reflecting Babylon's ambivalence toward female empowerment. These women navigated Babylonian commerce and social expectation with a deftness that commanded both respect and suspicion. While they wielded undeniable influence within their domain, society viewed them through a lens of intrigue and disdain, ever wary of the power they symbolised. Their existence encapsulated an uneasy dichotomy, their role infused with shrewdness and survival, amid a patriarchal order eager to curtail their autonomy. Yet the importance of taverns went beyond mere social territory into economic significance, their trade tightly monitored by Hammurabi's stringent guidelines. Fairness was a cornerstone, where watering down ale or overcharging patrons were grave infractions bearing hefty consequences. Such acts of deceit threatened not only individual patrons, but the broader economic stability of an intricate society, delicately balanced on the precarity of fair trade. The punishments for tavern keepers who dared flout these laws varied from financial penalties to corporal punishment, underscoring the relentless grip of authority guiding society's moral compass. In these bustling haunts, the air bristled with tales of conspiracy as much as conviviality. The code's stern language reflected a deep-seated paranoia about sedition plotted in shadowed corners. Taverns could foster refuges for fugitive souls or incubators of insurrection, their walls echoing with whispers of revolt. A constant presence, spies woven seamlessly into the throng, underscored the fragile equilibrium within this pressured space. Guardians of the Babylonian order who tread the delicate line between camaraderie and treachery. Amidst this intrigue, ale served as the catalyst for confessions, revealing truths beneath the hazy veil of intoxication. Beer was more than beverage. It was an unspoken contract, a contributor to loose tongues and unshielded hearts, where guards of everyday life fell away. The laws codified within the tables of Hammurabi revealed an intricate dance between drink and the disclosure of secrets, a dangerous undertaking beneath the ever-watchful eye of Babylon's enforcers. In this theatre of libation-fueled revelation, the line between truth and deception blurred, tipping dangerously with the ebb of the hammered haze. Ultimately, the tavern and its tangled story were embedded in a broader narrative, the struggle for dominance between primitive impulses and the civility striven for by Babylonian society. The Code of Hammurabi sought to transcend the mere regulation of taverns, standing as an overarching mechanism of social control. These laws dictated the harsh contours of human behaviour, colouring the boundaries between liberty and tyranny with the vivid hues of public order. The tavern, by its very existence, symbolised a paradox, a domain where laws were both broken and reinforced, a crucible of humanity's dual nature, tethered within order's unforgiving grasp. In this realm of earthly indulgence and austere discipline, the stories spun and secrets traded frame the Babylonian experience in all its complex glory. Here was a world alive with shadowy exchanges under flickering lamps, a market of hidden riches and whispered offers that demanded law's cautionary intervention. It was a stark reflection of the societal currents beneath the city's surface, a matrix of half-light and glaring scrutiny, offering law an ever-watchful gaze over its tumultuous seas. The tavern thus stands eternal, caught in time, its story a testament to Babylon's perpetual dance of order against chaos, of human indulgence restrained within the stone-hard law. As our journey through this ancient tavern concludes, remember, history is as alive as the stories we tell. Be sure to like and subscribe too. Join us in unveiling the vivid past in our future tales.